Hi gang, I'm Todd Nauck. Welcome to my live art stream. I'm about to do an illustration of Spider-Man for this raffled piece of art at Gabe El-Taib's Comic Kickoff 5 party at San Diego Comic-Con. That's preview night, July 18th, 2018, 9 p.m. at Bar Basic. You can find out more of this information on my social media accounts as well as the Hero Initiative social media accounts as well. All raffle ticket proceeds go to benefit the Hero Initiative. So enough jibba jabba, let's get to drawing. All right, so I got a piece of board here. This is just a regular Strathmore Bristol board, and I've just got a regular 2/8 or an HB lead pencil here. So let's just kind of rough something in here and see where it goes. So I start real scratchy. Just really kind of just getting my thoughts down on paper. I can edit as I go. I got my trusty eraser here in case something isn't working the way I want it to, so I can just try again. Get the spine going there. Get the flow of the figure. So it's working in the body shapes. Just generalized body shapes. Muscle shapes. You got to practice your life drawing so that these shapes become second nature to you, for the most part. Sometimes we have to reference a different pose because the shapes will take a different muscle depending on how they extend or contract, and sometimes depending on the pose, depending on the foreshortening, it's like if a part of the body is coming at you, then it creates that sense of depth. That's going to be all new shapes, so, or all different shapes I should say than what maybe we're used to drawing if it's a more static non-action pose. So welcome to those that have just tuned in. Just drawing a little Spidey here. At least get a hand in here. Don't want to have an... We'll get both hands in here. What do you say? Maybe this one's a fist. So just really scribbling it again in here. How did it feel when I drew my first comic book? Oh my goodness. Oh man, it was... Well, my first paid published work was just a one-page X-Men gag for Marvel. So I have the privilege of saying my first paid professional printed work was for Marvel as a 21-year-old kid still in art school. And I was thrilled. Over the moon. I wrote it, I penciled it, I inked it, and I lettered it. And then they had someone else do the colors. And I gotta say, it was so much fun. It was such a thrill to have met. I'd seen this editor at the Dallas comic book conventions for the past couple of years. She was kind enough to review my portfolio. And finally, I got to a point where she saw enough potential in me that she was willing to give me a shot on the humor comic she was editing at Marvel called What The. If you've seen the Marvel What The series on their website, the little kind of robot chicken type of stop motion animation action figure videos. Well, originally What The was a comic book series that was humor based, where they lampooned the Marvel superheroes as well as maybe some of the distinguished competition and other publishers' characters as well, but mostly Marvel stuff. And so I was a big fan of that comic. Let's get Spidey's eyes in here now. I was a big fan of that comic, so very excited to get a chance to not only do a piece for it, but also draw some X-Men. My first comic book project where I was working as a full-time professional was for Rob Liefeld, creator of Deadpool and X-Force. When he left Marvel in the early 90s, mid-90s, well, by the time I was hired, it was the mid-90s. He left in 92, I believe it was, and was one of the founders of Image Comics. Let's see, you got the spider right there on his chest. Just kind of rough in where that will be. A lot of the details here are going to come in the inks. He discovered my homemade mini comics I would make at art school and share them with friends, and one of my classmates took my mini comics to a convention, showed them to a guy who worked for Rob. He liked them, took them to show them to Rob. He liked them. 3 days later, I get a phone call saying, saw your mini comics, like what you do, come work for me. So I can still remember the day I moved to California and my first day in studio working on my first issue of Bad Rockin' Company. It was very exciting. And Rob came in to the bullpen and, saw the first page I was looking on, grabbed it, ran off my desk, ran into his office, and seemed to be very happy with the work I was doing. He brought it back to me because I had to finish the page, but it was the first page of Bad Rockin' Company. It ended up being issue 2, was the first full issue I did for Rob. We drew the series out of order because plots came in at different times. But issue 2 was the first issue that I drew. I drew issue 1 as well, but issue 2 was the first one I drew. So much fun at that time, a lot of excitement, a lot of energy. Image Comics was still really new and really hot and hopping, and everybody had to have every Image comic title, all the Jim Lee comics, all the Mark Silvestri comics, all the Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson comics. And I was definitely a fan of all that. So it was exciting to be one of the new young artists discovered at that time. All right, so we got the pencils there done. Really rough pencils. We're going to bring a lot of this together with the inks. So now I'm using my Pigment Microns, the 08 here. And let's just start getting some line work going down here on these Spidey pencils. Now when I pencil for comics, I pencil much more tightly than this. This is just a sketch here. I'm going to do tight inks, fairly tight inks, but when I'm drawing my comic book pages, the pencil lines are much tighter, much tighter. I want to make sure my editor can tell what it is I'm drawing. So I like to vary my line weights, but I start off kind of thin, and then I thicken up the lines where necessary. As all the different body parts and pieces start to come together, I can see what needs to be pumped up. So it shows up in the foreground a little bit better. I want to create that sense of depth. Thicker lines convey closer to the foreground. Thinner lines give the sense of being further in the background. Just kind of a general rule of thumb. Thicker lines can also indicate where shadow is, and thinner lines can also indicate where light is hitting. So these are two other things to keep in mind when we're inking. Where's the light source coming from, and what's in the foreground and background? Light source and shadows, foreground and background. Middle ground is in there as well. Middle ground is halfway from the foreground to the background. roughly. When am I coming back to England? Hey, Rob. Will. I always do that. I always want to say Rob Wilson when we know your name is Will Robson. I don't know why my brain inverts that sometimes. I think because I see your last name first when I glance over at the phone. So, Will. Dear friend Will. When am I coming back to England? I need to come back to England. Don and I loved our time in England. Was it 2 years ago? 2015? Would love to come back. Love the city, love the area, love the people, and definitely want to come back. I guess it was 2016. It was 2016, wasn't it? It was 2016 because it was we were there just as the Summer Olympics was starting, and I remember watching opening ceremonies in the hotel the day before we flew out to come back home to the States. So definitely would love to come back to England, London, UK. Definitely would enjoy that. Hopefully we can come back soon. Hopefully maybe for a comic book convention. Am I still using the Pentel brush pen to ink? Yes, occasionally, depending on what the effect is that I need to convey. Absolutely. It is definitely a part of my art arsenal. So right now I'm just getting in the main body parts in with my inks here. I want to get all the main parts in, then I'll come in with all the costume details and other finer details as necessary. So we got a lot of webs we got to drop in here on Spidey. Let's see, let's get his eyes going here before I start putting in the cuts of his costume. How many more characters can I add in on this piece? You say 300? Tony, you are hilarious. I don't know if I could fit 300 on this one here. The last time I drew almost 300 characters, that was the size of 4 comic book covers. You know what I'm talking about, since your wife colored that cover. But I had a lot of space to work with to fit those 275 characters on that on that artboard. Have I been to any Colorado Comic Cons? Yeah, back in 2015, 2016, I was at the Denver Comic Con. Had an awesome time there. Had a really great time and would love to come back to Denver/Colorado. Definitely would like to come back. All right, let's see. Let's work on this spider here. There we go. Now let's see, we gotta do his spider webs here on his costume. Let's see, let's rough that in here just a little bit here. So the sleeve comes down like this. It comes all the way down there from the shoulder across the pec down. And we've got one on this side, that side, one that runs through the middle there, and then this one here. Then 1, 2, then 3, down the arm, hang a left, down to the hand. Same over here. Let's see, 1, 2, over here, over here, over here. Let's get the face added in. Down the center, 1 on the side, 2 on the side, 1 on the side, 2 on the side. Down the front, splits to the chin, 1 and 1, and 1 more over here, 1 more over there, 1 right there, 1 right there. Well, let's go ahead and get this arm, 1, 2, 3, 4, and finish off the belt. Boom, boop, bitty bop. Okay. It's like it has the base structure down. So now I can separate the red from the blue. Bring it all the way down to the belt. Separating the red from the blue. Bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. Get that center line going to the point. Let's see. From that separation coming back up. Doop. Now down the middle here next to the center line. 1 on the opposite side for that sweet, sweet symmetry. Finish off the belt. Zippity boppity doopity doo. Let's go ahead and add the cross webs like that. Take it down the sleeve. Now you gotta keep in mind, or I like to keep in mind, the shape of the muscle that the line is running down. And it's gonna curve depending on that shape of the muscle. Again, this is where studying our anatomy can come in handy as we deal with the shapes, as it curves around the muscle. When I was a kid, I thought, how do you draw those webs on his costume? It's madness. It can never be done. No mortal can do it. And once I started to study and learn the pattern of it, I thought, before that, I thought it must take forever. It must be, how did they ever get this book done on a monthly basis? But once you kind of learn the pattern, it can be really fun and easier to do than one would expect, but it takes learning the pattern and also keeping in the mindset that when we curve the lines, see how I curve it around his head a little bit? I want to show the shape and form of his head. The lines can help show mass and volume to Spidey. It's not just crisscross across his body in a flat sort of way. We want to convey, and now when I go do the cross webs here, I'm going to curve around the curvature of his body. It's almost like a barrel sort of shape. I'm going around, same with his arm, around, because Spidey is an organic shape as a human being. So I consider, how would these cross webs go across his body? And so it helps me convey his mass and volume, and makes him look believable on the page. So think of that whenever you're drawing your Spider-Man. Is these cross webs are a tool to convey mass and volume to your viewer. And as we come down the arm, considering where do those cross webs, what muscles are they going over, and how am I going to convey that shape? Now, I've drawn Spidey a bajillion times, so I can do these cross webs pretty much oftentimes just from sheer muscle memory. Let's see. Let's do the face webs here, and then we'll take care of the fingers. So face webs next. Again, considering the shape of the head, the forehead, the top of the head, down towards the face, or like the lower part of his face, I should say. A lot of practice has gone into this, gang. I've been drawing Spidey off and on since 2006, so I've drawn a lot of Spider-Man comics. Currently drawing a Spider-Man comic, Spidey School's Out. Issue 2 came out just this week on Comixology/Kindle. If you read your comics digitally, or if you have a Comixology Unlimited account, then you have easy access to it. It's already in the library on Comixology Unlimited. If you just do regular Comixology, the issue is for sale now. If you read your comics in print, the print edition, the trade paperback for Spidey School's Out comes out December 4th. All right, I'm going to switch down to a 0-1 here. And then I consider the direction of the finger as well as the shape of the finger, because he's making a fist, so our fists create different shapes because of the angles. So we have to keep in mind each angle here, because that part of the finger is going that way, but then it bends, and now the finger is going this way. It's going that way, now this way. That way, now this way. And these are the things we have to think about when drawing Spidey every time. But when we do it enough times, it becomes second nature, because we've practiced it a bajillion times. Now for this hand, again, we have different planes. So this way, now this way, and then slightly different angle. So we're going this way till we get to this knuckle, and then we cut a different direction. Now it's conveying a bend in the finger. This way, now it bends, so we cut down this way. And we do this a fourth time on the pinky finger. Now we see the very tip of the thumb, so we get that little circle where the concentric circles end, and just beef those lines up a little bit there, and that takes care of that finger. All right, so we can go in and erase all these pencil lines now. Using a Stettler Mars plastic eraser here. Oops, sorry gang, didn't mean to bump the rig. All right, now that I've erased there, I can see, need a little thicker line here underneath the chin, just so it pops off of his neck and shoulders just a little bit more. Just a little bit. Is this a professional piece, commission, or personal? This is a piece I'm doing for Gabe El-Taib's comic kickoff party for San Diego Comic Con. Party is July 18th at Bar Basic. Free admission, benefiting the Hero Initiative, and with other prizes. This will be a prize. Someone will win this in a raffle at the party. So if you're coming to San Diego Comic Con, come to the comic kickoff party at Bar Basic. And there's also going to be prizes from Dark Horse, Funko, and Blizzard. So a lot of cool stuff. Definitely a party you want to come to. A free admission party, come on. I'll be there. Jim Calafiore will be there. Gabe El-Taib will be there. So that's what this piece is for. So let's start dropping some color on here. Just for funsies. What do you say? Let's start with some R27. So I'm considering my light source coming from the left over here. So I'm going to leave more white of the board, hitting on Spidey's right, our left side. So any of the shapes coming from towards the top. So the further away it is from the light source, the more red I'm going to drop in. Just roughly. This is just kind of the initial rule of thumb. And then I adjust and tweak as necessary, depending on the illustration. But just kind of a general rule of thumb. Just kind of get things started. And then considering the shape of the muscles again, that's going to inform the shape of the colors I put in. Actually, I'll add just a little more of the red here. R27 is what this one is. That's my go-to base red for Spidey. Let's come in with some orange here. Let's try some YR68. Mentioned this in other videos. Maybe you've seen me draw Spider-Man on YouTube or here on my Art of Todd Nauck Facebook page, or on my Instagram live videos. I learned this trick from superstar colorist Edgar Delgado. Saw some of his Humberto Ramos commissions he was coloring at San Diego Comic Con years ago, I noticed he used orange in his lighting for Spidey, and I really loved the vibrancy that it gave. So I gave that a try, and I've adopted that as part of my technique. So I got to give credit back to Edgar Delgado. If you're not familiar with his work, look him up. You will not be disappointed. He does amazing colors. Colors a lot of Humberto Ramos' stuff, so they pair really well together. So I just really like the warmth and the vibrancy, I should say, that the orange gives. And then when you blend it over the red there, it creates a really nice, vibrant, powerful effect. Now I'm going to come over this with another shade of red, but this is just the stage I'm at right now. So that was some YR68. We're going to do a little bit lighter shade of orange, a YR16. Just a little bit. Sorry about that, gang. An alarm just went off there. I woke up earlier than I expected, so one of the reasons why I'm able to do an art broadcast. Had a little extra time before I had to start my work day. All right. Now I'm going to bring in some R24. R24, just to kind of, because the orange becomes almost too dominant, I don't want it to look like an orange Spidey. I come in with this lighter shade of red. And this is a technique I developed on my own, is adding this lighter shade of red over this orange to kind of bring it back to its more true redness. But we still get that orange vibrancy now kind of popping off underneath the reds. Kind of just blends it all together, kind of smooths out the transition a bit. All right, so that squares away the red for the most part. Let's bring in some blues now. Going to start with some darker blues. Going to start with the B06 as my darkest shade of blue. Going to hit the bottom side of the muscles. Still remembering my light source is coming down this way. So I'm going to leave area open. Where that light will be hitting. Okay, so that's my initial darker blue there. Now I'm going to come with some B04, a lighter shade of blue, blending from that dark into the white part. It's a lighter shade, so we're getting lighter as we move towards the light. Go to the light. Still leaving a little bit of the white of the board for an even lighter shade of blue here coming up in just a sec. And now coming in with some B01, a very, very light shade of blue. As my blending finishing move here, and then it just fades. Fades out down there at the bottom. Let's see, a little bit there. Now we just have a couple of more tricks here for Spidey. Next up is his eyes. So I'm going to do my eye trick. Going to take some blue here. Some B01. Again. And just going right across the middle there, just kind of letting it kind of zigzag across. Some B01. Now some B00. No, B000. A very, very light shade, just to do the bottom there. I'm trying to create a sense of the horizon, a reflection in his lenses here, creating a horizon. So now some cool gray 01. I'm going to come in with the cool gray here to give it kind of this bluish gray. So push in there a little closer so you can see the results. Now we're going to come in with a cool, that was cool gray 1. I'm going to come in with a cool gray 3. I'm just going to go right over that B01 to create a darker horizon, and it gives it kind of this chrome-like reflective look. In fact, I want to make that a little darker, so I'm going to bump that up to a cool gray 4, just for a little more contrast. Now let's put some shadows. I'm going to pull back just a smidge. We're going to put some shadows here on Spidey. So I'm coming in with a cool gray 5. And the opposite side of where the light's hitting, I'm going to put in some shadow here. Keeping in mind the brow, the nose, the muscles here, leaving a little bit of the red over here on this side, kind of as a reflected light sort of vibe. Gonna use the same cool gray 5 on the blues as well. So the cool grays are great for doing shadows because it kind of helps ground the character in our reality. Here, it makes it look a little more believable with the lighting. And it kind of takes out the what I call the Skittle effect, where the colors are just so bright. Back in my younger days, I used to, and by younger days, I'm talking about like just a few years ago, I would use just the same, like darker shades of red for the shadows, darker shades of blue for what I consider the shadows. Then I learned about I started using grays. I'd use warm grays for warm colors, cool grays for cool colors. Then I learned from a new friend, Ahmed Al-Duri, awesome channel on YouTube. Look him up. Also look him up on Instagram as well. Learning that using cool grays for our shadows just gives it more of a realistic sort of shadowing. And as I studied photography and I look at photo reference and studying, not that I study how to take photographs, but looking at photos and looking at the shadows and really studying the colors that are used that appear in the shadows, just seeing the types of grays that make up the shadows on a person's face or clothing, things like that. And it's like, wow, definitely can use a lot more cool gray on my warm colors and cool colors, and really creates a believable shadow effect. So this right now, just primarily using just this cool gray 5 for this here. This is just a quick Spidey. This will be a prize. If you just tuned in, this is a raffle prize for our comic kickoff party at San Diego Comic-Con preview night. Wednesday the 18th, 2018 at Bar Basic, 9 p.m. to about midnight. So if you're going to San Diego Comic-Con, do come to the party. It's free admission, 21 and over. So come hang out, get some round. Sorry, alarm went off there again. Okay, so there we go. There's the shadows for Spidey. Now we'll just do a little something here, just a little something to set him off against this background here. So right now, let's just see, what do I want to do? Maybe we'll just go. Yeah, we're just going to go a black square, or rectangle, I should say. So we're going to use some black 100. And my triangle here to get a nice straight lines. Then we'll just bring the end of the rectangle there. This is the finishing move, gang. We'll do a quick Q&A to follow this illustration here, and I'll try to answer a handful of questions before I sign off. If you're watching this on YouTube or on Instagram TV, sorry that there's no Q&A on this video. Sorry I won't be able to address your questions in this video, but please do feel free to post your questions if you're watching later on YouTube or Instagram TV. And if you're on YouTube or Instagram, hopefully you are following my page or subscribing to my channel. And if you're watching this on Facebook, hopefully you're following me here on Art of Todd Nauck Facebook page. All right, now I just hit this part right here. Just leaving a little halo around Spidey, just because I like the look of it. And then let's see, how's this gel pen working? You good, gel pen? Got a little pencil line there. Let's erase that out. Gonna put a little Spidey sense in here. Oftentimes I do a web pattern. I want to do something different this go around. So this is the Uniball Signo white gel pen. It is my favorite of the white gel pens. So just kind of drawing in the zigzags of the spider sense. So he's turning like, what? Spider sense tingling. Something bad's about to go down. And there we go. Little spider sense there. So let's autograph this. And what is today? Today is June, say the 20th or the 21st. I always forget the day. 22nd. And there we go. And here's the finished artwork. Thanks so much for hanging out, and hopefully I'll see you at Gabe El Taib's Comic Kickoff Party number 5 here at San Diego Comic-Con, July 18th at Bar Basic. More info on my social media accounts. And until then, see you on the next